Hi, everyone. I'm ABC 10 Chief Meteorologist Monica Woods in Sacramento, tracking heavy rain and snow, plus flooding and dangerous travel continuing into the beginning of our work week with even more rain and snow after that. Now, because of the state of the snowpack, we do have considerable avalanche danger for the Tahoe Basin, especially through the central Sierra. Due to the recent snow, we've got this weak layer below the surface. So a trigger like a person skiing or snowboarding or even a gust of wind could trigger the risk of a large slide possible largely overnight tonight into our Sunday night and early Monday morning. That's something we'll be tracking continuing into the beginning of our work week. Just wanted to put that out there first and foremost. Next, we'll move on to what's happening in the Sierra with our winter storm warning in effect tonight through Monday night with about 1 to 12 inches of snow for some of those lower elevations. As we head up to the high country above 7,000 feet, we could see 1 to 2 feet of snow possible, especially, like I said, for the highest peaks above 7,000 feet. That winter weather advisory, by the way, continues through Tuesday morning. That'll be the duration of the event for the higher elevations. Back to the valley conditions. Flood watch in effect. That will continue through Tuesday at 4 a.m. when we expect a lot of the water to start to recede after periods of heavy rain coming in Sunday night through early Monday with on and off showers into our Monday forecast. Now, this is all starting to get going here for our Sunday evening, coming in from the coast with a big plume of moisture pushing in, delivering ample amount of moisture with this storm cycle here. There's the low driving it inland. Sierra snowfall will continue to be problematic with dangerous travel, possible travel delays, chain controls, and road closures. We saw some of that happening on Saturday. As far as the winds, that's not going to be the biggest part of the story. But again, with any of those gusts up in the Sierra, given that weak layer of snow that exists there, could see some triggers for some avalanches. As far as the valley conditions overnight tonight, we'll see wind gusts up to about 25 to 30 miles per hour. Peak wind gusts in the Sierra, by the way, are closer to about 40 to 50 miles per hour. Everything winds down into our Monday in terms of winds as the main band of precipitation moves eastward. But before we get to that time frame, we still have that excessive rainfall in the slight risk across the coast and for parts of the foothills north of I-80 primarily. Marginal risk south of Highway 50 and through the valley. That's what's going to deliver that flood risk for us by tonight and early tomorrow morning. As far as the rainfall forecast, the heaviest stuff moves through overnight tonight through early tomorrow. The main band of rain already pressing its way eastward here. By the time we get to midnight, snow will be heavy at times for the Tahoe Basin. Over towards the coast, we still have areas of heavy rain over in San Francisco. Some of that moving through the northern San Joaquin Valley overnight, with Monday morning's commute looking a little sloppy here, especially with the accumulated rainfall. That flood risk will be especially at risk for places like storm drains that aren't cleared, low-lying areas, flood-prone areas that just naturally flood periodically, and then also some of that roadway flooding and some nuisance flooding going on as well. Sandbags are being offered for some of the regional areas. As far as the snowfall for the Sierra, it will be going all the way through the day tomorrow. We're not going to see as much of a break in the Sierra snow as we will for the valley, but that leads us to a slight chance of afternoon thunderstorms. Here you can see the active weather timeline. Really, the biggest risk is going to be Sunday evening through the overnight hours with the flooding potential and dangerous travel. That's not to say we won't see any flood risk continuing into Monday, but that water will be making its way through many of the waterways by the time we get to Monday afternoon and early Tuesday, when we actually start to see some clearing for the forecast. In terms of how much snow we're going to see for the lower elevations, you can see how the accumulations largely go up Sunday night into early Monday and then start to back off in terms of sheer accumulation by the time we get to Monday evening. 1 to 12 inches expected for many of the lower elevations. Highest elevations, as I mentioned before, about 1 to 2 feet of snow. In terms of rainfall, really starting to see where we'll see the bulk of the precipitation, and that will be right along this I-80 line here, stretching from San Francisco through Vacaville, Sacramento, Roseville, and through the Delta for Rio Vista, somewhat Auburn, with about 1.7 inches of rain north of I-80. That's when we get some of those higher totals as well. Grass Valley up to 2.2 inches. Winters about 2.1 inches of rain. Lots of farmland in Winters. Good news for them. Just don't want to see too much in the way of flooding issues. Pollock Pines with 1.8 inches of rain. not snow. So let's take a look at some of those monitoring sites. Sacramento River, if any of you have been noticing, especially along the levees, that river is really muddy right now, kind of a brown flow because everything is moving downstream here. Latest reading 10.4 feet. That was early on Sunday. It's expected to crest during the middle of the week at about 15 feet. That's still going to be well below monitor stage and flood stage. And at that point, we will be in for a stretch of dry weather, helping to move that water through the watershed. Our river forecast monitoring system, you can see we've got a couple of orange spots here. The monitoring stage will be Tisdale and Calusa weirs, where those are just free-flowing weirs. They're not gates or anything that they have to open. And Rio Vista also looking at a monitor stage there. All of this on the Sacramento River, by the way, so that river line will be flowing pretty good here over the course of the next 24 to 48 hours. Rainfall coming in overnight tonight. Snow for this year. It expands throughout the central and southern Sierra during the day on Monday, right along 395. Some difficult travel there, as well as 88, 89, 120 and 4 going into Yosemite. And towards the coast, we'll see areas of difficult travel, especially for the South Bay area during the morning commute. By Monday evening, things are starting to wind down for us. We get a break on Tuesday. Wednesday, a weaker system in the line driven by this low to the north of us. It is going to be a little bit farther to the north, and that's why we're just kind of on the tail end of this system, the weaker end of that weather system. Bigger break as the storm track starts to head a little bit farther to the north. I did want to give a quick check on our statewide precipitation because we actually are starting to do some great catching up right now. We are finally back to average for Modesto and even slightly above average precipitation. Still behind for Stockton, Sacramento, San Francisco, even Redding, above average for Eureka, where that storm track has been pretty much positioned through much of the winter season. It's been largely in extreme northern California and the Pacific Northwest. Not necessarily a typical El Nino pattern, which tends to favor Southern California. That just hasn't been the case this year. It'd be nice to get some of this rain coming in tonight. Just don't want the flooding issues that go along with it. Real quick check here on our water supply. Everything's still looking pretty much as it should. We're at 100% plus average for many of our reservoirs here. Only about 50 to 70% full, but keep in mind we're still in flood management phase, not necessarily super concerned about keeping that water. We really have to deal with the flood risk right now. New Melones, Don Pedro, San Luis, all still at or slightly above average. San Luis a little lower right now, but again, in good shape, comparatively speaking, over the past decade where we've been with those reservoirs. Our snow water equivalent for this year, this is sheer snowpack here. How much water could we get from that snow? Only about 30 to 55% of average, putting our statewide average at 50%. The Sierra snowpack, by the way, accounts for a third of our water supply during the dry season, and that's why we really like to keep a close eye on that. Our atmospheric river landfall tracker, here's the Sacramento Stockton latitude, and what we're going to notice here is during the end of the month, it looks like that storm track will be favoring more of a northerly track than, say, what we've been seeing over the course of the past, 2 weeks or so. We've got a couple more atmospheric rivers to go through here. Wednesday, it looks like we've got a pretty decent chance of showers. It's not going to be the strongest one that we've seen over the past couple of storm systems that come on through. Friday, that's when we really start to see this storm track becoming much more amplified to the north before we get to the end of the month. And at that point, we're going to turn back to the potential of more of these storms making a direct hit in through central California and potentially Southern California as well. It does appear that we will start to see just a little bit more moisture moving in through Southern California. So the Climate Prediction Center is forecasting for the end of January, beginning of February, a likely wetter scenario. And what's most notable about this scenario is that it's not so much in through the Pacific Northwest, but mostly through California, extending all the way through Southern California. And that likely warmer setup will continue as well, meaning we're going to stick with this snow line at about 6,500 to 7,000 feet. So again, we get through the Monday storm system. We get a break on Tuesday, another one due in on Wednesday. And then it looks like Thursday, Friday through the upcoming weekend, we're in a dry pattern. I really like this setup here because it allows the watershed to clear out of some of the heavier rain that we deal with and set itself up for the next round of wet weather that starts up, it looks like, by the end of the month, with that first storm arriving potentially right at the end of the month towards early February. So here we go again. Nice to get these breaks in here. The water managers can kind of catch up. How much do we keep? How much do we let go? And then get ready for the next cycle of storms. Highs for tomorrow in the 30s for the Sierra, so you can see how high that snow level starts to go during the day with those temperatures above the freezing mark. 40s and 50s down low. It's an all rain event for the foothills. Rain as well for the Bay Area with highs close to 60, and we'll take that inland with highs in the upper 50s to right around 60. Our 5-day forecast will feature the biggest stuff coming in overnight tonight through early tomorrow. A weak weather system due in on Wednesday for the mountains, the foothills, and the coast. Then we're right back to the dry weather and most notably warmer weather. Yeah, by Thursday and through the upcoming weekend, highs will be in the mid and in some places upper 60s as we start into the following week. But all eyes on this Monday forecast as we really deal with the problems with a flood watch in effect, winter storm warning in effect, and a winter weather advisory. You can get more in-depth forecasts just like this and weather specials on our ABC 10 Plus app. You can download it for free on Fire TV, Roku, as well as Apple TV.